Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. And I hope that you had a wonderful weekend, the past weekend, of course. Today we'll be going over the market, just a overview, and doing some analysis. This Wednesday, which is the day after tomorrow, is a day whereas we will be going live at around 8:30 a.m. in the morning. So we'll be doing some live stream, reading of price action, as we'll be, using the volatility and trying to gauge, or predict what will happen. So you can see that yesterday we did have news at 10 a.m., right? But due to the fact that this week is non-farm payroll week, we usually, take caution. So on these weeks, I usually like to wait for the 2-week open to be established before doing anything at all. Currently, it's 6:27 p.m. We already had the 2-week open being established, which is 6 p.m. We can see that tomorrow we have news at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually, whenever we have two high-impact news events within, a proximity of 30 minutes, and that's important, right? Within a proximity of 30 minutes together, we will potentially see either intermarket sequential SMT or sequence SMT on the 90-minute cycles, right? And this is very, useful for the index futures, right? And as you guys can see, well, you will see right now, we're not in the best spot for anything at all, in my opinion, right? So now we have, consolidation or low probability conditions all across the board, right? So it's not like a week whereas I would be like, okay, we'd expect price to fall into this fair value gap. No. At times like these, we don't have fair value gaps. At times like these, prices totally out of sync. And that's just due to the fact that we have, all of these troubles, across, just ripping through the economic fabric of our world, right? So, Russia, the USA, all of these things are having impacts on the market at the moment, which, will be cleared up soon. The market will be cleared up soon. But, times like these are the best, in my opinion, because it teaches you more. It's harder to navigate. So you're being, stretched or pushed to your limit, whereas you have to be waiting longer than you would want to wait, which is good because you're here for what? To learn how to trade, to learn how to read price action, and also to learn how to control your emotions. So me telling you this is, of course, since recently I've just been placing no more than 3 trades a week, sometimes 2. Why? In these conditions, election year conditions, you don't really want to be scalping too much. Stick to day trades and intra-week trades, or stick to intra-month trades, which are, swing trading, which is swing trading. Anyways, here, Wednesday, you can see that we have high-impact news events in the morning, right? ADP, non-farm payroll change in the morning, which is different from non-farm payroll and the actual NFP, right? This isn't as volatile as this is. Here we have unemployment claims. Here we have hyper-news events again. And here we have FOMC minutes, meeting minutes. So by looking at this, you can see that these days, which have the most hyper-news events so for example, we have Wednesday right here, having, hyper-news events. Then here, Friday, we have having the second most hyper-news events, which is important, right? The days which usually have the first and second most hyper-news events tend to, be days that form the higher load weeks, right? And no one else going to tell you this because they don't look at it this way, or they just simply don't know. Of course, for this to be confirmed, because either of these 2 days could, prove to give that move that you're looking for, right? Any of these days. If you realize, then this is the main reason why I didn't care about, Monday, because this is what I saw, right? And by me skipping Monday, most of you, will in fact skip Monday as well, which is good, which is why I did it. So the thing that would confirm, a large move would be what? Yes, sequential SMT, followed by a precision swing point. And that's usually there are more things to learn, but for now we stick to that so you don't get too confused, right? Sequential SMT followed by a precision swing point, right? And this would occur on the lowest 90-minute cycle, but preferably we would see this form within the daily cycle or the weekly cycle, right? The sequential SMT or intermarket sequential SMT, whenever it forms on the weekly cycle, obviously price will give us a larger move than if it's formed on the daily cycle. After this day, Wednesday, if we see sequential SMT here, we can expect what? We can expect price to move. Even if we see it on Tuesday, we can expect price to move. But there's something to, really understand, which is a part of doubling theory. For example, if we see sequential SMT here on Wednesday, we won't see it on Thursday within the weekly cycle. So sequential SMT tends to, it's not going to be following, right? So you won't see it on Tuesday and Wednesday on the weekly cycle. If you see it on Wednesday, and even if it forms on, for example, the day after Wednesday, then it would be on a lower time frame cycle, which would not allow price to, move to take over the range that was formed on Wednesday. So usually what you'd like to see, and the case is usually that you will not see more than, there are times when price is very, when price is moving a lot, the most that is possible is to see 3 in regards to in regards to a cycle that you're looking at, right? So not just in regards to the weekly cycle, but if you look at a 90-minute cycle, it has 4 quarters, right? You won't see, that's a different case. We'll get into that. Now we're talking about the weekly cycle. For the weekly cycle, you won't see more than 3. So if one's on Monday, then you could see one on Tuesday. Or if one's on Monday, you can see one on Wednesday, but you won't see it on Tuesday, right? So it will skip days, right? It will skip Monday. If we had one on Friday the week before, right? It will skip Tuesday. If we had one on Monday, it will skip Wednesday. If we had one on Tuesday, it will skip Thursday if we had sequential SMT on Wednesday. And it will skip Friday if we had sequential SMT on Thursday. This is very important to understand because whenever there is not sequential SMT, there is not expansion. When there is not sequential SMT, all you usually have is what? Either consolidation which gives rise to a sequential SMT or continuation. Crispy charts today. Finally got it fixed. Here you can see we are looking at the index features triad, right? You can see that I have just this line right here, and usually, well, most of the times, you'll always, just see, I'll just draw a line at the level that I'm interested in. And not to say that this is the be all, just want to see price go higher, 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 but obviously the only thing, that I'm interested in is what? You already know, a cracking correlation. So here we have these highs right here. Also, I found the mouse, my mouse back, so no more clicking noises for you guys. Here you can see, right, that I have these highs highlighted. This is the forward time frame. But when I go to daily time frame, right, you can, get a better look at what's happening. First of all, we can see that the Dow, right, is not at, near, well, all-time highs as how these are, right? So even the S&P, right, it's literally hovering near to all-time highs, and I say that, just by looking at the closures, right, because that's what matters, right? So we're very close to the highest close, of all time for even the S&P and for the Nasdaq. But we're further away with the Dow. So this is indicating that there is some weakness, within the marketplace. But for this weakness to be confirmed, we need to have a lower time frame cracking correlation, right? Also, something new for you guys to study is, whereas I've already hinted at something, well, gave you something for W theory if you guys, manage to grasp it. If not, we'll be going over it some other time, but make sure that you're taking notes. There are 13 months, right? And I believe I've said this before. I've just said there's 13 months in each yearly quarter, right? Just as how, we have 5 days in a week, right? We have 5 days in a week, and we use each of them, right, to, measure for our, get our sequential SMT, find our cracking correlation. You can reflect upon each month the same way. So for example, you can have sequential SMT between January and February. Yes, between February and March. Between November and December, right? So you get a gist of it, right? So sequential SMT and also intermortgage sequential SMT, of course. I'll just say a correlation so I don't have I'll just say a cracking correlation so I don't have to be repeating all of that. But whenever I say a cracking correlation, right, depending on the context, you should know what I'm talking about. So a cracking correlation will occur between 2 consecutive months. But they're not quarters. No. And that's why you have Darwin theory, which is, a branch of quarterly theory. Right? So all the elements that you already know, they already learned from quarterly theory, you apply that to this. And, you'll see wonderful things, of course. So with that being said, pretty sure most of you took that, wrote it down, I'm going to study it, and you'll see we implement it whenever the market is, giving us something to do. For now, it's not. Right now, we just have price consolidating all across the board here. Price even traded here, failed to break above this high, which, was a precision swing point. Fell, barely wicked below this low. I don't really consider this as a run on liquidity. I still consider this as sell side liquidity, which, I expect price will revisit if we have a cracking correlation here above this high, right? So if two of these run above this high, one failed to do so, there's a precision swing point, and that will be enough. But for now, basically this is probably one of the weeks whereas, I advise everyone to just remain nimble, study price action, and don't worry, the charts are not going to be going anywhere, right? The charts will always be here. Well, not always be here, but they won't be gone for a very long time, right? So the price will always be here. Price will be here. So just, don't go inside and hurt yourself whenever we have price action like this. If you realize we haven't been really paying attention to quote unquote higher time frame PDRs, right? Mostly what we've been focusing on is just, the sequential SMT. Due to the fact that, yes, and price has been, ill or low probability for most of the year. It's just that we understand what we're doing, so it doesn't really, trouble us like that. It doesn't bother us. And that's just due to the fact that we know how to expect reversals without depending on higher time frame levels. Even though when you have higher time frame levels and sequential SMT, then, that would be a different ball game. That's whereas you would have the highest of probability, right? But for now, you can see that this is not high probability, right? We need price to, take a low, right, form sequential SMT on a day that has a high impact news event, or take a high, form sequential SMT, followed by a precision swing point. Then what? What's the third thing? Then we could add SMT fill, and that will make it extremely high probability. Here, right, looking at the US dollar, comparing it to the euro and the British pound, ever since we, got, this direction correct, we caught the British pound literally at the top, and we caught the US dollar literally at the bottom, right? But for now, you can see that we've just been chopping around, consolidating, as I, just stated, right? We've just been consolidating all across the board. So even here, look at the euro consolidation, right? Look at the British pound consolidation. Look at the US dollar consolidation. In weeks which, occur before NFP, so week 4, and this is why usually week 4 is such low probabilities, that just as how the day before NFP will not be the best day to trade, and just as how, the day before CPI, so for example, CPI is on a Tuesday, then the Monday will be low probability. The week before NFP tends to be low probability as well, due to the fact that we have such high impact, news drivers entering the market. So we have this low right here for the US dollar, which does not matter, of course, unless there's SMT and a and a precision swing point, right? It does matter. Price trades below, there's no correlation. Okay, wait until it trades below this one and then creates a lower time frame correlation, right? So literally that's it. For now, right, price still looking for these highs, but waiting for, price to find a footing in the US dollar. For now, I'd advise to just, continue to taper until, we have clarity. But for now, there's still no clarity, right? Here is something else that, you will, which is quite new. And something that I realized whenever we have, choppy price action all across the board, Bitcoin tends to, try to move, right? So anyways, here we have 3, and everyone has been asking me about Bitcoin, and here it is. What's the triad for Bitcoin? First of all, and this is, in case, not saying that it will happen, not saying that it won't, but this is just algorithmically, me speaking, whether Ethereum is the second highest in the market cap, I believe that Bitcoin will always be, right, the standard for quote unquote cryptocurrency, right, or the face, right? So, for example, if something flipped Ethereum, then that other asset will be the second, right? But Bitcoin, right here, is as how we, this is the S&P 500 for the crypto market, right? Ethereum is the second triad, and for the third triad, you want to use the crypto total cap, right? Excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this takes all the data from all of the altcoins, right? And just put it in, one, bag of information, right? So this represents most, right, all of the outs on average, whereas this is Ethereum and this is Bitcoin. So whenever you're looking for a sequential SMT, you want to be comparing all 3 of these, right? Crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. Why? Because we already have Bitcoin and Ethereum over here. We don't need that information right here, right? And by studying this, you'll see. So, for example, I did tweet right here. It's just that, whenever I tweet something, I'm not going to go back and beat my chest because I don't really care. It's normal happenings, right? So here I tweeted that we could, see, something price went above this high, then fall, which happened, right? For now, right, we could see Bitcoin, right, push up, right, a bit. And I'm still, what I would say is very skeptical of these highs, right? So overall, of course, you need to see a higher time frame sequential SMT, which, we are not seeing as yet. We have a really high time frame sequential SMT within the crypto market at the moment, right? But that's between the really higher time frame cycles. So it won't be affecting, the month-to-month performance of cryptocurrency, right? So we would like to see, and Dublin theory works for crypto very well. So you would see sequential SMT between 2 consecutive months, right? Here, right? And it will be more evident here and more useful here than, for example, within the, US dollar or euro. So I hope that you took something from today. We will be back Wednesday, hopefully, whenever there is, better price action to work with. Do not, treat this as punishment or, be upset about anything. There are just times when the market is doing nothing. And when the market is doing nothing, we do nothing. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will talk this Wednesday.